Welcome to the Urban Cowgirl Show. Today we're starting a show about using Spurs to get softness. Chris Cox did something on RFD TV this week. Both Katie and I watched it. We're starting with my best cow horse, Semi, who already pretty much uses her haunches for power. But depending upon what problems you're trying to fix, what you're trying to do to get a softness, where on the body you're trying to get softness, depends upon how and where you use your Spurs. So Katie's going to describe what she just experienced in the last 10 minutes working with Semi, Shadrach Triton Semi, my cow horse, Morgan horse, here in Half My Arena. And Katie?
She is already a really light horse. She's has the most training under her, I think. And recently, in the past few rides I've had with her, I've noticed that I don't know if she's just being lazy or if she's forgotten, but she's a little less responsive and a little harder to stop and not doing haunches stops all the time. But in the past 10 minutes, if I'm helping lift her front end up with my Spurs, it seems to be helping her with her haunches stop, and she's being much more responsive, back to the old Semi.
And Chris Cox, what he was talking about in that show, really I recognized it as being principles of dressage. But it was using a Spurs to get the right body posture from your horse and to get the softness and the attention. So we were actually worried because Katie's kind of small. We were worried she wouldn't be able to, tickle with the spur under the belly, but to get the back rounded. But no problem.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, and we are going to the Horsemen's Reunion in Paso Robles at the beginning of April. This is almost the end of March. We're going to try to finish this show between now and then. We're going to try to upload it, maybe even take a couple copies of the DVD because Chris Cox is going to be there. And there's going to be a question and answer session one evening, and we're going to go there with our questions already lined up, ready to go. Okay, Katie, let's have a demonstration. And anything that you say, since you don't have a mic on, I'll just repeat. Tell us what you're doing and what you're getting by doing it. And why you're doing it. We're not going to use the Spurs if we don't have to.
And I'm trying to use as little rain as possible.
As little rain as possible. Her head is down. She's paying attention. Good. She looks soft. Good. Step over on the front. Okay, so your spur is mostly being used on the side under the belly.
Yeah.
Have you used it any other way? Because he did say there were places you could put the spur to get other answers.
Yeah, if I use it a little further back, if I'm trying to control her hips more.
Further back to control the hips? Well, that makes sense. And once they know the spur is on, they're usually much more, very good. That was a disengagement, wonderful. They're usually much more willing to listen. Katie's looking where she's going. They can hear that too. They can feel your body. Head down. Good. She could have used her haunches more. So what are you going to do this time when you do the same exercise?
Try and get my spur underneath her a little more.
Try and get her spur underneath her a little bit more to round off that back. Have her use her haunches in her stop. Fence to ask for the stop. Still, she bounced a few times. Did you get that? Yeah, we want to get away from that bounce. If she uses her haunches better, she's not going to bounce. She's just gonna slide. She's arced the wrong way. She was arced to the right. You wanted her to be arced to the center, so to the left. See if you can bump her a little bit. Get that softness. She may be looking at something that's going on here next door. Bump a little bit. Slide your hand down the rein and bump her a little bit to get that flexion. Vertical is good. Still not that slide. Okay, so you want to keep trying, or do you feel like you want to maybe wait for the next session?
She was doing better earlier, so I want to get her back to that.
Okay, she was doing better earlier before we turned the camera on, so Katie is being challenged. She wants to get her back to a good haunches stop. You can really feel it. We're getting a backward motion here. I can tell that Semi's listening, although there's some farming work going on around here. We have an organic farm next door. Picks up the canter nice. Better, still stepping, but I can see the legs underneath her hips.
What about are her front feet reaching forward?
Let me watch that.
I haven't even thought about that yet.
Yes, we want those back legs to reach up under her belly. Reach into the footstep of the front feet. And that comes with getting that back convex, not concave. And that's a different way of saying it, but that's what dressage riders are often aiming for. Getting that rounded back. I would say, yeah, you want a little more reach. Oh, that was a better stop, though. Yes, but when she's in motion, and this is hard to see, when she's in motion, it appears to me she's not quite reaching her front hoof prints, which would indicate, I believe, that we need to round that back even a little more. And this is one of the questions we'll ask Chris Cox at the Horsemen's Reunion through this video on the Urban Cowgirl Show, and personally at the question answer session. And we're going to try to have him preview this video and be ready to help us understand. Better, but I forgot to watch for the reach. Try it one more time. Dressage riders look for so much detail. Sometimes when I watch it on RFD, I'm in amazement because I hear comments from the dressage instructor, your thumb is too flat. And I think, I have never thought about where my thumb is when I'm working a cow. I forgot to look at the reach again. Did you look, Angela?
No.
No? Try, sorry. Right now, she's not reaching all the way to her front footprint. but her stops are getting better. So, okay, what do we have to do to get her to reach to her front footprint? That's our other question for Chris Cox. And then we're going to do the same thing, I hope, with Eve and Sadie. Eve has an abscess right now that's being repaired, but Sadie is sound, so we'll probably do her next and show you how good the youngster Sadie does on accepting a spur, which, by the way, she's not as patient as Semi is. She's likely to do a whoopee, a kick up or whatever when she first feels the spur. But can we get her to reach with her hind legs? Can we get her to haunches stop? And now Semi's doing an avoidance thing. She's saying, I'm thirsty. She often does that when she says, I'm done working. Let me drink. Let me go graze with my herd mates. So that's what she's going to get to do as soon as we turn the camera off. Well, Katie and I just got back from the Horsemen's Reunion in Paso Robles. And we learned some training techniques that we're eager to try with our horses and cows. We have Sadie in the arena today on purpose because one of the cowboys that was trying to start a colt had a rope, a lariat, around the back leg of that horse and walked around the arena for a long time before that horse stopped kicking out. He was trying to get that horse accustomed to feeling tied up in the leg. It's a really practical desensitization exercise because if a horse gets hung up in a chain or hung up in some wire or even some plant that has a lot of roots, they can get panicked. And what you want to do is teach them not to panic, not to kick out, but to be very cautious and careful, to lift their foot out or be patient and wait there. One day, about a year ago, my mare, Eve, Sadie's mom, had a chain wrapped around her ankle. And my border friend came by and said she was just standing there, Sonia, and I unwrapped the chain. I have no idea how long Eve was standing there, but her disposition was such that she knew she was tied at the leg and at the ankle, and she didn't get spooked. We don't think Sadie is going to perceive it that way. So to try that, after we've done some spur work with her, because Chris Cox was there at the reunion, and we clarified with him a little bit about his picking up the ribs in order to get that back rounded, in order to get the hips under, in order to get a good reach with the back legs and a good tucked stop or whoa with your horse. Well, when we're done with that exercise, if there's time in this show, we're going to take this lariat that I have, that on one end is just a typical Honda. It's the kind of Honda you use on a cow. And it's designed, that Honda's designed not to slip, but to hold tight until you release slack. This Honda, however, is for a horse. It's for a horse around the neck or a horse around the leg, and it is a metal Honda, and it's designed to slip. And what you want to do is make sure if the horse gets away from you, that this Honda, that this loop around their neck or around their ankle will not stay on. You want it to loosen up, will not stay tight. You don't want it to stay tight. Okay, and then here's one more purchase I made. I've been meaning to buy one of these. We were right there at a tack shop where we were staying at a motel, and they had one of these in stock. It is a flag. It is a flag with a very thin, lightweight, I think this is some kind of a vinyl pole. It's got a nice handle with a tie, and on the other end is a noisemaker of sorts. And Julie Goodnight uses these a lot. If a horse, for example, is being loaded into a trailer and giving trouble to the person that's trying to load the horse, Julie will stand behind the horse and make this noise until the horse steps forward, investigates, shows willingness. This is a very uncomfortable feeling for the horse, so it's a pressure that you remove when you're getting the right answer. Before we turned on the camera, we tried it on Sadie, and she especially is kind of spooked by it when it's up over her head. We're just going to have it here in case we need it, in case we need to apply pressure when we're getting the wrong answer, because it's a real lightweight, handy thing to have available when you're training. Now, Katie has her Spurs on. We've done this with Semi. Now we're trying it with Sadie. So I am going to, for now, just stand near the barrel and watch and make comments, and Katie has her mic on. Now when we do the lariat around the leg, if we get to it today, I'm going to have Scott come in, because you kind of have to move fast if the horse spooks, and you kind of have to hang on if you don't want the rope to fall off. And Scott is stronger and more nimble, so I'll let him come in and I'll go to the camera. For now, Katie, just kind of tell us what you're trying to do. At least let's talk about what Chris Cox said at the question and answer session about, yeah, that spur pressure from under the belly. It's going to work if it's not a constant pressure and if you keep some contact in the mouth. And then we talked to another fellow who's a dressage specialist, and he was out from Kentucky, and we talked to him about this issue, and he said that you want to make sure you keep forward impulsion. If you want those back legs to reach into the front footprint of the front legs, besides getting the back rounded, you want to make sure that you have forward impulsion. So it's really a timing thing. Can we keep contact, indicate impulsion by pressing with our calves or our spur, and at the same time, at the right moment, lift the ribs so that the back gets rounded? So let's see how it goes today with Sadie Shadrach. Sun and Shine, Sadie, Eve's daughter. Whenever you can, if it doesn't interfere with what you're doing, just tell us in your mic what you're trying to do.
They said to do spur under the belly, the opposite of whatever spur is stepping forward at the time. So if the left front goes forward, I'm going to spur with my right leg.
So you got to know where your horse's feet are and when they're there.
She's mistaking a lot of it for just speeding up right now, so it'll take her a lot of practice.
And I asked Chris Cox, how do you know when their back is rounded? And he said you can see it in the hips and you can feel it in the saddle when you're sitting in the saddle. We want those back legs to reach forward with every step. Not to drag on the sand, but to reach forward and step in the footprint of the front legs. And we want to be able to do this at each gait, the walk, the jog, and the lope. And as you see, we're getting some speeding up when we really are asking Sadie with our cues not to speed up, but to change her posture. We also want that flexion. There's nothing you can do if the horse is stiff in the neck. So if Katie can see the outside of Sadie's inside eyeball, we've got flexion. We've got lateral flexion, but we also want at the same time vertical flexion. If we could just do it at the walk and actually see it, that would be nice. Now, Sammy, my other mare, who's got a lot of cow experience, can give us a nice tucked hip stop. I don't think Sadie can, but eventually she will be able to. Let's say you're fencing. You go into the fence at a lope. You ask for a hoe, a clear request for a hoe. You, at the right moment, give that lift, spur, cue. You stay in contact with their mouth, but don't let them change their speed until you're ready to say ho. And then you sit on your pockets, and your body alone will tell them they're supposed to stop. And if their back is rounded, they won't have a jolting stop. They'll have a nice tuck butt stop. Eventually a sliding stop. If you have a chance to tell us what you're feeling up there, Katie, it would be instructive.
I think she's still just getting confused by all of it. It's just going to take a lot more practice with her because she hates the Spurs so much. She wants to get away from it.
Yeah. She doesn't have much experience with the spur, and the spur is a great tool, but you have to help your horse to understand what you're asking with it. And it's not really a jab. It's more like a tickle. But it's an obvious feeling, and they have to understand what that feeling is and what you're asking. I can say that the back legs don't look like they're dragging on the ground. We have a nice ground covering walk, which is always desirable. But there she goes, picks up the jog, doesn't understand that what we want with that spur tickle in the ribs and under the belly is for her back to get rounded and her hips to get tucked. And so we're not going to be able to show you any progress today. We're just telling you the principles. But what I'd like to do for the purpose of documenting the present prerequisite skills of Sadie, as we did with Semi, can you try to pick up a canter and fence her? And let's see what her stop is like. Fencer means stop in the fence, so she has no choice but to stop. Hope that it won't be a jolting stop. Not bad. I saw those back legs kind of tuck. How did it feel? Bouncy? Yeah. If you don't feel that it's unsafe or too uncomfortable, can you try it one more time? We are getting a nice canter transition. And we need to, of course, try to keep her shoulders up. Yes! I see some tucking. Was it still bouncy? Better than the last time, and that's what we want. We want a little bit of improvement, a tiny step in the right direction. Now we're going to turn off the camera and try our lariat on the back leg. And I have a video up on my website that documents what was being done at the Horseman's Reunion with this one colt who for the longest time refused to accept the feeling of the lariat on the back leg. All right, we just asked Sadie to lift her foot up like we do when we clean out our hooves every day. Scott's gonna bring that loop up just above her ankle. It's got the metal Honda, so if he lets loose of the slack, it should fall loose from her ankle. She's allowing that feeling of the rope.
They pulled it tight.
At stand, yes. Can you pull a little tighter, Scott? There we go. It's sliding down. There you go. That's exactly what that horse at the Paso Robles Horseman's Reunion did a lot of for, I don't know.
She got worse when they started walking her.
Yeah. And I don't know if we're going to try that or not. Pull a little tight again. Try to keep it up. Now what's going to happen if we start walking? Scott's got to get the feel for that rope, and be careful in your left hand not to let those coils tighten up if she gets away from you. We do have the arena cut in half. Oh, she says, see, there's something stuck on my foot. Yes. And that kicking out, yes, that's what we're going to have to get rid of by repetition, removing the pressure only when she stops giving us the wrong answer. And we're going to try this with Eve next, by the way. And I have a feeling that Eve is going to be just fine with having a rope on her back ankle.
Quit kicking.
All right, we've got a lot of practicing to do. This is a very important skill to learn. We want them to realize that they can have this constriction feeling around their ankles and not have to flee. And you know, that's what hobbles are all about on the front. Even if you never expect to use a hobble, ooh, that's better. That's good. That's good. Let's stop for a minute. Too bad. No, then don't let loose. Even if you never use a hobble for any other reason but to get that constriction feeling understood so that they don't try to flee. Oh, that's good. Okay, let's stop now. I want to stop on a good note while we can. Try to loosen it up, Scott, safely by going where I showed you on the back of the saddle facing southward. Loosen up the lariat. It shouldn't be hard because it's got that metal Honda. Yeah, and Katie will just walk forward. Keep the Honda on the ground. That's it. And that's the exercise we wanted to show you today. We learned it in Paso Robles at the Horsemen's Reunion. Next session, we will work with Firecrest Easter Eve. We will use spur lift to get her to round her back and reach with her hind legs. We also will use the ankle rope. See more at www.urbancowgirlchannel.com